This is the Super Complication, a watch from Patek Philippe that was sold for an astonishing $24 million. In today's world of luxury watchmaking, there are quite a few brands that are known as the top echelon of horology. However, three stand out and have been dubbed the Holy Trinity of watches, a phrase that has been in use since the mid-1970s. A Patek Philippe is one of them. But did you know Patek Philippe was created by a Swiss orphan? Yes, Orphan, who set on to create one of the most luxury watch brands that would be seen brandishing by people of huge influence, such as Einstein himself. Today, we'll take a plunge back in time and visit the history of Antoni Patek. In 1812, Mr. Patek was born into a noble family and played the role of the grandson of the mayor of Lublin. When he was 17 years of age, he lost his father and moved to Warsaw. As you can imagine, this stress wasn't easy for young Antonio to handle, and to deal with it better, he joined the 1st Regiment of Augusto Mounted Riflemen. He actively participated in the November Uprising, where he displayed a show of great and commendable courage, but during the process was wounded twice. For his act of selfless heroism, he was granted the rank of lieutenant and awarded the War Order of Virturi Militari. When the uprising came in the end, Mr. Patek somehow managed to reach France in 1831, where he found himself a job as a typesetter in a printing house, and you'd think that'd be the end of his suffering for a while. But unfortunately, he was forced to immigrate again. Why? Because he, of all people, an orphan with pretty much nothing in his name, was being suspected of revolutionary activity. This forced him to leave his steady life in France once again, and eventually he found himself in Switzerland and finally settled in Geneva. Looks like fate itself had to intervene. Now, a man needs to earn one way or another in order to survive. So Antoni Patek, who had been the future watch tycoon and owner of a billion-dollar industry, started relatively small. He used to trade wines and studied painting in depth, but his passion was lying elsewhere. He found watches to be rather interesting, and a lot of his free time went by visiting and observing the work of local watchmakers. Intrigued, and after he was a bit financially settled, Mr. Antonio decided to start investing in the best mechanism made specifically by the hands of Geneva specialists. Later on, he commissioned their gilding, enameling, and engraving by other artists. And surprisingly, his luck started to turn around, as he made quite a nice amount of money working as an intermediary. And finally, as history was made in 1839, he partnered up with Franciszek Czapek and set up a watch company that was truly his own. This God-gifted and fate-intertwined combination, where Mr. Antonio supervised the decoration while Mr. Czapek oversaw the watchmaking, brought both of them an overwhelming success that would ripple throughout history. Ever since the beginning, both of them gathered a massive amount of respect, recognition, and reliability thanks to their modern designs and extremely precise and delicate mechanisms. Even now, as we speak, Patek watches are not seen as ordinary mechanical watches, but time-expressing instruments that actually possess a soul. With that, it's only expected for the Patek Czapek company to go nowhere but up. And here's the best part. In 1844, fate plays another important hand in favor of Antonio and the upcoming watchmaker company, and led him to none other than the other half and co-founder of Patek Philippe, the renowned French watchmaker, Mr. Adrien Philippe. Adrien had been working on a new mechanism for winding watches. After he saw that a large number of people were having trouble with the winding key, he decided instead of a key, he'd use a string, which would ease a lot of complications in mechanical watches, which is a statement of how dedicated and passionate he was about his work. During the exhibition in Paris, the watches that were designed by the dynamic duo found a huge amount of popularity among the Polish company and buyers, which led them to change the overall composition. While all sounds good, Czapek was not good with this, and in fact, he allegedly refused to modernize the mechanisms and wanted to go with the traditional manner. And due to this conflict, he left the company and set up a separate company of his own, which was soon shut down, but not for a lack of trying. With Czapek gone, Philippe became the technical director, and then, as fate would have it, became a full-on partner, and has been immortalized in the company name the world now knows and respects as Patek Philippe. Considering themselves not as mere time-telling instruments, but nothing less than a work of art due to their intricately detailed and professional craftsmanship. Patek watches rapidly became a status symbol for elegance, and the wealthiest figures from all around the world, for obvious reasons, wanted one for themselves. The products that were purchased by the aristocrats of Polish origin were mesmerizingly decorated with national symbols of the Lady of Czestochowa, or the national heroes, Józef Poniatowski and Tadeusz Kościuszko. In 1851, specifically during the World Exhibition that took place in London, a Patek Philippe watch was purchased by none other than the British Queen Victoria and the Danish Queen Louise. Talk about royalty on a grand scale. The result of this purchase? Well, let's suffice it to say the dynamic duo was granted the prestigious title of the Watchmaker of Kings. After that, a lot of influential and famous people were seen brandishing a Patek Philippe watch, such as Leo Tolstoy, Peter Tchaikovsky, Maria Sklodowska-Curie, John Paul II, Niels Bohr, Albert Einstein, Walt Disney, Duke Ellington, Joseph Broz Tito, Joseph Stalin, Mikhail Gorbachev, and even Vladimir Putin. But they didn't stop there. In order to increase its sales even further, Patek actively sought out and attracted new customers on a regular basis and tirelessly worked on advertising its products on a global scale while constantly working on new and never-before-seen innovations. For example, reversible watches were produced with different functions on different dials. Turning things up a notch, they introduced an independent second-hand mechanism in 1841. And finally, in 1868, the company started to produce wristwatches and quickly became immortal in the golden pages of watchmaking history. This orphaned, unfortunate, and exceptionally skilled craftsman who found fortune later in life drew his last breath on the 1st of March 1877 in Geneva, possessing an almost surreal amount of determination combined with creativity. This self-taught individual created a brand from literally nothing. A brand that is now, in modern times, recognized as the manufacturer of one of the, if not the most, luxurious watches in the whole world. Having an active role to play in the Polish Democratic Society, which was the largest political party in exile, he employed compatriots, had a big impact on Poles' aspirations for independence, and consistently assisted immigrants who were forced to leave the country after the fall of the January Uprising, because he knows firsthand what it feels like. So, what happened to the company afterward? In 1932, the company was acquired by brothers Karl and Jean Stern, whose bloodlines still to this day work on managing Patek Philippe. And even today, the company surprises the world with new and innovative products. They produce a very limited series of watches that comes with hand-enameled dials, which bags them literally millions of dollars at auctions all around the world. For example, in 1999, a 24-function watch that was crafted back in the 1930s for banker Henry Graves was sold for $11 million. And it doesn't stop there. After a decade, the same old watch was sold for a staggering $23 million, making a name and taking the place as the most expensive watch in the history of watches. This is how Patek Philippe, from possessing nothing, made an incredible impact on the Swiss luxury watch industry and immortalized themselves in the pages of history.